couple weeks ago, I made a promise to you guys that we take a look at my 55-gallon tank, and today is that day. Before we actually do that, I have 3 things or more to say. First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for all of your support. It might not seem like a lot, but 13 subscribers in a week is pretty exciting, which brings me up to a total of 43. Booyah. Secondly, this may or may not apply to you, but this coming Saturday, there's going to be an open house for Aquatic Clarity in Richfield, Wisconsin. So it's in the Milwaukee area. If you happen to be in that area, it's going to be at Jeff Michael's house, the owner of Aquatic Clarity. I went to the first open house. It was a blast. I bought some fish that are actually in here, and I actually plan on buying some more fish this Saturday. If you happen to be in the area, you might as well come out. So it's going to be this Saturday. I don't remember the times, but the event link will be down in the description if you're interested. And the third thing is that I'm sorry that it's been a couple weeks, and I'm also sorry that it's going to be a little while, at least for this foreseeable future, that there will not be too many videos, because it's not like there's any personal problems going on. Actually, it just happens to be super, super busy at work, and I will always prioritize work over YouTube. It's not exactly my full-time job with 43 subscribers, but I've been putting in overtime every single day at work. I even had a stretch where I worked 13 days in a row, and I know, no excuses, but I just have to prioritize my own well-being and make that cheddar over doing what is presumably just a hobby right now. Real quickly, before I forget, I'm going to obviously edit this into the more intro part of this video, is that any sort of updates, any sort of communication that I'm going to be doing with you guys is actually going to be on Facebook. So I created a Facebook group. I'll link that down in the description, and any updates, any behind the scenes or any discussion, communication, anything is going to be on that page, and only that page. As I gain more subscribers, if that ever does happen, technically there's a certain threshold where if you hit, I think it's like 1,000 subscribers, that's obviously maybe never going to happen, but if it does ever happen, that will allow me to actually communicate to you guys here on YouTube. But for the time being, I set up the page. It's called the Aquarium Addicts, and I'll link it down in the description so you guys can find that super easily. So thank you guys for understanding, and let's get into it. Alright, so you guys are going to need a little bit of a backstory on this tank, because this tank isn't just any ordinary tank. So this tank is a 55-gallon standard size tank that I got from my girlfriend's boss. My girlfriend's boss is a dentist. He had his own practice. He had his own building, or his own space at least, within a building. And he decided to merge with a bigger dentistry. And so then he had this fish tank in the office, like a lot of dentists have, and he wasn't going to need it anymore. So I actually bought it off of him. It's got a lot of scratches that I tried to buff out, which did not work too well. Plus I had to reseal it. But otherwise, I'm still very happy that I picked up this tank for a reasonable price. So I got the 55-gallon tank. I've got the iron stand with it, which a lot of people are expressing their concern. I don't know if you can see it in the shop, but it's a pretty bare stand. It's a thin iron stand, and it's been holding up for how many years, so I'm pretty sure it's going to hold up right now. In fact, what's unique about these stands is that you can fit a 55-gallon on top, and there's even space for a 55-gallon below it. So technically, you should be able to get 2 55s on here. I'm not going to be able to do that in my apartment building because there are restrictions. But I technically could have that option in the future, but I would still honestly prefer to build a stand in the future because I think they look that much nicer and you can conceal things. But this will work for now. I got it at a great deal. Plus it also came with this canopy made out of wood. So the black with the black trim looks great. I also got a couple of hoods to go on top, which I didn't keep because they were pretty bad, pretty beat up. Along with a filter, which I didn't know the brand, and it didn't have the brand on the filter itself, so I couldn't exactly figure out what it was, and I wasn't going to use it anyways, because I went ahead and right behind me there's a Fluval 406 that I purchased. I also went and purchased, just like with my other tank, I purchased a Phoenix Planted Plus 24/7, 4-foot one. I got a 2-foot one on that one. And then I also have 88 Amazonia in there. So there's probably about 3.5 inches at least. I purchased way too much. So if you're in the Milwaukee area and you're looking for a couple of bags of Amazonia, hit me up. And then of course, it's coming along with the plants, but it's not exactly what I envisioned, but it's a start. It's a work in progress, really. A lot of the plants that I put in here were actually from my 20-gallon tanks, so like the Amazon Swords, the Crypt Wendy's, the Dwarf Sage, a couple of Madagascar Lace, and then I picked up some plants, 12 plant package, just a random assortment of plants from aquariumplants.com. I know what some of them are. I did get another Madagascar Lace, which is doing phenomenal. It actually already flowered, which is awesome. And then a couple of other plants that I can't identify, and then some Anubias and some Crypts. I don't have the specific species, but I'll figure that out. I'll discuss those plants in a future video. I've got 3 angelfish in here. I did start out with 4, but 1 didn't make it. 3 Ultums from Peru. I'll have to look it up, honestly. I did find out from Jeff what the species are, but they're F1s, meaning that their parents were wild caught, and then these guys were bred. So they are actually pretty high quality, and they have a ways to go with growth. I mean, they could be growing about that tall. That's what the parents were that I was told by Jeff. These guys are maybe not even half the height, and then of course they got to grow out, maybe get a little bit thicker too. These guys I picked up, that would have been a couple months ago at least, that Jeff had his open house, which is where I got these guys from. I started out with a few peppered Corridoras, and I don't know if they weren't getting enough food, if the angels were, eating their food or something, but a couple of them also didn't make it. It's very embarrassing to say that, but it's the truth. I do have 1 lone Bosemani in here. Don't ask me why. I love Bosemani rainbows. I kind of wanted this to be a rainbow fish tank, but I could not pass up on these angels. These angels looked fantastic, and they even colored up a lot better as well. I do have 1 piece of driftwood in here as well. It's kind of hard to find good quality driftwood, or at least good shaped driftwood, when you're talking about the dimensions of a 55-gallon tank, because it is so narrow. So front to back, there's not a lot of space. So lengthwise, it's a 4-foot tank. So you'd think, okay, well, let's put some fish in here that can do well in 4-foot tanks. But because a 55-gallon is so narrow front to back, a lot of times you can't keep those fish in here because they have to have room to swim around, turn around. There is also a bristlenose pleco in here. I do plan on getting a second one. When I bought this bristlenose pleco, I think I got it from PetSmart, probably PetSmart, and it was literally the only bristlenose pleco they had left. I kind of wanted one, and I was like, screw it, I'll just go to PetSmart and pick up one. And I mean, it was the smallest bristlenose I've ever seen. It must have only been a couple weeks old. The guy was really only about that big, and now he's grown at least twice in size. Maybe 2.5 times his size. And he does like to hang out inside this little cave. I'll show you guys the cave here in a second underneath the driftwood. Sometimes I'll just find him on the glass, find him on the substrate, and he blends in pretty well with this Amazonia, so a lot of times you don't even see him. I also have a Universal Rocks 3D background on here. Honestly, I wanted it to be kind of a cool setup, and I wanted a 3D background, kind of inspired by Joey, the King of DIY. All his tanks have 3D backgrounds on them now. And I kind of went with the cheapest one. There were cooler looking ones, but I thought that this rocky looking one, even though it's more suited for a bare tank that just really has hardscape, primarily for cichlids, but I think that This background is working out, and I am really extremely enjoying it for the time being. I'm sorry for any glare that there might be. I'm committing a cardinal sin by keeping it next to a window, so I do have the window partially open to let some sunlight in, and I do have a little bit of extra algae in here because of that, but it's for the most part under control. Nothing crazy, no real issues with blackbeard algae or thread algae or any of that. Just, got to clean off the glass so that you guys can actually get a good look inside. So if I can get this leveled, basically what I was attempting to do was kind of sort of follow the rule of thirds. So you split up the tank, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and that's how you kind of set up like your hardscape and whatnot. And I did not really have any true plans for a hardscape, so I did find one piece of driftwood that kind of fit in the tank and was going to be not necessarily so much of an aesthetic piece, but a practical piece because of its shape. So I put it on like the border-ish of the first third of the right side of the tank. So what I liked about this piece of wood is that actually it's kind of an L shape, and then it juts out, and underneath here is just a whole bunch of open space. So that's basically a cave and shelter for the fish without having to use any sort of fake wood to get that accomplished. So I was happy that I at least found a piece of wood that accomplished that goal. So I placed that there, and then basically I placed the plants around the tank how I thought they might work. The original plants that I had from the 20-gallon tank. So the Amazon swords, the crypts, the dwarf sage, the Madagascar lace plants. So I've got my Amazon swords, a couple of them over here. I've got another one over here on this side of your screen. And then the crypts I kind of placed a little bit more forward because they were shorter, right? Because you want to put your taller plants in the back, shorter plants in front. And then I figured I'd have some open space kind of more towards the center. So I put dwarf sage down here because they're only going to get, well, maybe 2-3 inches tall or so, maybe 4 inches tall. So open space so that you can maybe see the corridors in there every once in a while, or God forbid you see the bristlenose pleco. Let's see if I can find him at some point. And then I basically put a Madagascar lace plant on one side, or both sides of the tank, one on each side. They don't have, well, the ones that I had didn't have their bulbs anymore, so they weren't exactly thriving or anything. Right now they've been putting up new leaves, but they're still small. And this other Madagascar lace right over here, that's right next to the original, has its bulb, and that's the one that put up the flower, and it's doing spectacularly. And then I basically, when I got my other plants, I just filled them into the other spaces that were available. I would say so far that the favorite that of the new plants that I got has to be this guy right here. I'll get a close-up in a second, which is also the same plant as over here. And it has actually really taken off. So I didn't realize it would get this big this quick. Here, let's actually look at the other one. It's going to be a little bit easier to see. So I got it right in front here. So yeah, a little bit of algae on it. So I'm going to have to either step on my water changes or do something about these blinds so that not as much light is coming in during the day. Because as the days get longer, it's only going to get worse. But, I'll just deal with it day at a time. But yeah, this definitely has to be my favorite plant that is new so far. The Amazon sword in the back is getting big. It really is getting big. And that's one. There's one right next to it. And then I was perusing Petco because I like to just look at Petco every once in a while, see what fish they have, even though I don't ever intend on buying fish there because, not to knock on anybody that works at Petco, but I don't know how much I trust the quality of their fish. I would rather get fish from a local hobbyist that has either been breeding them or is in contact with the breeders. So people who know what they're doing, basically, and do that for a living. There's the pleco right in the middle of your screen, and it's gone. Okay, that was fun. But as I was at Petco, they have the tissue culture plants there, and I decided, okay, I'll pick up a couple plants that I know are going to do well, and I'll throw them in this tank. This one is a Hygrophila compacta, and then I've got a water wisteria, or a couple of water wisteria plants that, they're still acclimating. It's only been a week and a half, so they've got a ways to go. But I know that both those plants are going to thrive in this tank because there's still quite a few nutrients in the water column. Plus I'm also going to be trying out Aquarium Co-op's Carbon, which basically is just an algicide, and Easy Iron, and their Easy Green. So I picked up a fertilizer package, and I'm going to be trying that out probably in the next week or two, and I'll give you guys my review after about a month's worth of product testing. There we go. Also, I guess I should make note of the heater that's in this tank. So let's see if I can get a good angle. So the heater right now is telling me it's low flow. So I'm going to have to see if I can get another small pump in here to circulate some water. But this is Fluval's, oh god, I don't remember the name of it, but I will link that down in the description as well. I am not on top of my heaters these days, apparently. And basically, it's a controllable heater, and it'll display the temperature, and will give you an LED or a light indication as to whether the temperature is too low, it's too warm, or if it's just right. Right now it's green, which means that it's within a degree and a half-ish of the desired temperature. I think I have it set at 79, or at least 78 and a half, so that's pretty good. I'll give reviews for each of these products, and like the Amazonia and whatnot, and I'll give specifics as to what I like, what I don't like, and if I do or even don't recommend these items or products. But right now I just want to give you guys a good overview of what's going on with this 55-gallon tank, so that if any changes take place, then you can yell at me for not updating you if you guys notice. I also have dwarf water lettuce. I want to say dwarf sage, but dwarf water lettuce on top. I've got dwarf water lettuce in my other tank. I do believe in floating plants. Floating plants take out quite a bit of nutrients, excess nutrients at least. I might take them out here soon. I just wanted to see what would happen if I did throw them in, and they actually are growing now. I had to put my output for my canister filter a little bit lower so that they didn't get blown around so much. But they are multiplying, and these guys multiply like rabbits. In fact, the saying "multiply like rabbits" or "breeding like rabbits" really should be more like multiplying like dwarf water lettuce, or duckweed for that matter too. But I don't have duckweed, thank God. Great plants to have if you have excess nutrients, and you need to get that under control. And that can also technically maybe kind of sort of increase the amount of time in between water changes if you're really desperate. But water changes are your best friend. And then also, just real quickly, I'd like to highlight the fact that I am using a canister filter rather than hang-on back filters with this tank. So I'm using a Fluval 406. Again, this will be another item that I'll probably put a review out for at some point, because, spoiler alert, I do like it. And I'd like to actually go in depth as to why I like it and why I recommend it. Which I also have it sitting in a bucket, even though I've been using this canister filter for many months now, without any signs of leaking. but better safe than sorry. Thank you guys for watching. So over these next couple of videos, I'm going to be talking about the specifics of this tank, the specific products, and giving my feedback on those things, and then taking a specific look at each different species and the different plants and going into those specifics as well, so you guys can have a more in-depth experience with this tank. This was supposed to be more of an introduction to this tank, so I hope you guys aren't too disappointed, but there's at least some stuff to look forward to. So if you're looking forward to that and you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. And also make sure you click that notification bell if you really love this channel and you want to see more videos right away, apparently. All right, thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.